What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I wanted to just throw this in the beginning. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. That really helps our numbers. Also, check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch store to get your Ex-Drinking Buddy merch. And if you really want to, subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/BrennanTassif. That really helps me out. I'm so happy to have everybody who listens. And thank you so much. Enjoy the episode.
Grabbing your beer and grabbing my coat. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and reminisce about crazy old stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do. Reminisce about old stories. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Atlanta, now in New York City, Michael Rowland.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
What's up, man?
I'm excited to be here. I love telling stories about getting fucked up because, I used to be a big boozer myself and now I'm not drinking, so.
There you go. See, it's always, I love having people on the podcast who used to be big drinkers and don't drink at all.
Yeah.
Because they always have the best stories. There's a reason they stopped drinking.
I think Atlanta, I was talking to my buddy about this yesterday where it's just like the culture in Atlanta when I was there, especially doing comedy, it was like, dude, we were getting fucked. We were just dirtbags. Me and all my friends were fucking dirtbags, just running around Atlanta, just getting stupid.
Fucking love it, man. We'll plug everything before we get too far into it. Plug everything up front. I mean, you have a podcast.
I do. I have a podcast that
this
I
will
do.
come out in 10 days. So.
Okay. I have a podcast that I run with one of my best friends from Atlanta also. He also doesn't drink now. He was a big fun time guy. And we have a podcast together called In the Minivan where we just talk about music and, stand-up comedy and what we got going on. We make some music ourselves. It's a fun time.
Oh, that's awesome.
We call it In the Minivan because it's based on what we used to do in my minivan I had in high school when we were kids, which is just talk about music and bullshit. So it's a fun time. Check that out. What I'm plugging,
social media, any dates you got coming up?
Social media, you can catch me on Instagram at Michael Rowland _O. And the dates I have coming out are up or way out. I just found out I'm going to be headlining at the Laughing Skull Lounge.
Oh, shit.
In Atlanta
Back
the
home.
Weekend of Thanksgiving. Yeah, they're going to let me headline my home club. This is huge.
Dude, that's awesome.
I know. I'm very excited.
Well, we're big in the South, so everybody in Atlanta, come out. Savannah,
I asked the club, and I was like, they're not going to let me do this. And they let me do it. I was like,
Dude.
get the fuck out of here.
That's sick, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. That'll be November 25th and 26th. And then before that, I'm going to be going around, touring around. I'm going to hit Pittsburgh. I'm going to be in Chattanooga. I'm going to be in West Virginia.
Dates on the website?
Dates on the website. This is going to be in November, roughly November 10th, all the way up to November 19th.
Okay.
Website is michaelrowlandcomedy.com or MikeRowland.com.
Not michaelrowland.com.
Yeah, I do not have michaelrowland.com.
Some fucking designer.
Some fucking designer that doesn't even keep the website up to date. He's got michaelrowland.com, and I keep messaging him and he won't get back to me because he doesn't check it. He just sits on it like an asshole.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have you on. You and I both are from the South.
Yes.
You've been up here a little longer than I have, but I remember my first week or two living in New York, I went to the Cellar, and you came on and you were wearing an Atlanta Braves hat.
Yes.
And you had that little twang in your voice, and I was like, this son of a bitch. And then you started talking about being from Atlanta.
Right.
I think it was either that night or a few nights later, I asked you, because I know a lot of the Atlanta comics, obviously being from Jacksonville, we all kind of cross paths.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, do you know like Chris Buck and like a few other people? And you're like, yeah, of course I do. And I was like, this is crazy, man.
I know.
And ever
Dude,
since then, I've been like keeping an eye on everything you got going on.
I just connected 2 more names. Do you remember Spencer Ruiz?
Yeah.
And fucking Patrick Dalton?
Yeah.
Dude, them boys.
Yeah.
Yo, those dudes, man. When I was still back in Atlanta, I think they were there for like a year before I left.
Yeah, because I know Spencer moved out of Jacksonville to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So he must have been moving in as you were kind of moving out.
But we crossed paths. I think for about a year we were doing comedy in Atlanta together. But then after that, when I go back to Atlanta, I try to make music with those two.
Yeah.
They go by Dem Boys. Yeah. And my buddy Chris is lame from Savannah. And dude, they're so funny and they're so good. That was the thing about Atlanta that I'm realizing now. Everybody moved there or is from there is like pretty musical. They like to
it's a big music town.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's reflected in the comedy. A lot of the comedians have talent like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to talk to you because you're in New York now.
Yeah.
But you are, like you said, you are a Southern boy. And so I wanted to kind of, before we get into some of the crazy stories, which I'm sure we're going to run into as we talk about this, but I kind of wanted to get to know Michael. Like, how did you get started in stand-up? Like, what drove you? Are you originally from Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, the northern suburbs, Sandy Springs, but them's the closest suburbs you can have, baby.
Yeah.
They're close. Part of Sandy Springs is inside the perimeter. And just to be clear, the Not Atlanta song, she never brings up Sandy Springs. So as far as I'm concerned,
You're in Atlanta.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's going to be some pushback to what I just said, but that's natural. I grew up, in Sandy Springs. My mom got me into it.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I was like a really talkative kid, and my mom's a very sweet mom. She was like, we should channel his talkativeness.
Oh, okay.
So she put me in this thing back in Atlanta. There was a summer camp called Kid Comedy. Where it was
And how
run
old
by-
are you when this happened?
Dude, like when I went to the summer camp, I must have been like 10 years old.
Okay, so she caught it early.
Early, and I don't usually talk about this because, people ask you how long you've been doing it. It's like I really started in college, but there was like this whole period. My mom legitimately was like, you should try this. Sent me to a summer camp that other kids were at. And then the lady, after she had the summer camp, had like classes. She had stand-up 1 and stand-up 2.
Oh, wow.
And I was one of the few students that like took her stand-up 1 and her stand-up 2.
So you were way out in front of this.
I mean, for a minute, my mom clocked it. They sent me to a theater camp when I was in like 2nd grade at Georgia Tech. They were like, he's a talkative kid, put him in theater. And I remember they saw my little end of the week performance at theater camp and they were like, oh, this kid's got something. My parents were like, I remember them like coming to me after that and they're like, oh shit. Like they were excited.
That's
I was like,
awesome.
oh. I know. I forget about this sometimes.
Well, I've done over 100 episodes now, and I've interviewed a lot of people from actors to musicians, mainly comics, because that's my main stream that I'm involved in. But I've interviewed a lot of different people, and it's so interesting to me. It's fascinating the different reasons they get into certain things. And with comics, a lot of it, like I've had people all the way from saying like, well, I liked attention and the easiest way to get it was to go to open mics. And then I ended up getting kind of good at it. All the way to people like me where it's like, I study Lenny Bruce. Like I'm obsessed with the art of comedy. And I'm incredibly pretentious and kind of a tool. But that's my style is I study it like it's like a text or something. And I've had everywhere in between. But I think this is the first time I've ever had a guest on. Like I've had guests on with supportive parents. But this is the first time I've had a guest on where they're like, oh no, like they got me in early because they could see it coming. That's awesome, man. That's insane.
It is pretty cool. I do think there's part of me that I think was embarrassed to say it because I think I should be like further along. Because you think of guys that start, but you think of guys
you
that
should be like Chappelle because he started in high school.
And it's like he had, like I'm 31. Chappelle had the Chappelle show, so I'm like, it didn't give me. It's not like it gave me this big boost, but I think it gave me a pretty good, deep appreciation of stand up. And that lady that taught me when I was a kid, like she started with basics. She started with like Henny Youngman and Abbott and Costello bits and like all this stuff. But dude, my mom was like forcing. My mom gave me pictures of like Bill Cosby, fucking gave me a picture of Robin Williams, gave me a picture of Bill Murray. And I think Jeff Foxworthy was the fourth one.
Of course.
And gave them to me to like hang.
That was your Mount Rushmore,
on
those
my
four.
wall when I was a kid, as decided by my mom. But yeah, I remember Jeff Foxworthy early on. I was really into Jeff Foxworthy.
So were you before you do the summer thing, are you into stand-up? Is your mom
I don't
having
remember. I don't know if my memory goes back.
I didn't know if it was
But I've always had
chicken or
an
the egg.
older brother that's really into stand-up. I've always had the older brother that's been like, this is cool, this is funny.
Is he super
Look
like
at this.
Supportive now that you're
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He loves to hear my good news, and he's always like, oh, yeah. And I give him a lot of credit because he just showed me a lot when I was a kid. And I think it's still one of my favorite things is to like share a good laugh with my siblings, because that's when it does feel like, oh yeah, we're brother and sister.
Yeah,
like
we
we
got
all like this shit. It's because, we grew up, it was like a TV family, so I forget how I got here. But
Well, no, we were talking about stand-up, and I can genuinely relate to that because my we're Eastern European, and we've gone through some stuff. So we all have very dark senses of humor, all of us.
Yeah.
And so sometimes my whole vision gets skewed when it comes to comedy because we'll be sitting around like making jokes about like suicide or something, and we're all laughing, and then I'll be like, oh, that might be a bit. And then I take it to the stage, and everyone's like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, I got to work on that bit.
It's so funny. You say your family's got a dark sense of humor, and I've never tried to categorize my family's sense of humor, but it's not dark. It's like silly.
Silly?
My brother and sister really like really silly.
Yeah.
Stupid shit.
People tell me all the
Stupid
time, they
shit.
go, man, you're really funny, but if you could just be a little sillier, like to get the audience going. I'm always like, yeah, I know.
Sorry,
I know.
my family's Eastern European. You wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand.
Очень приятно.
What is it? What country?
The former Yugoslavia.
Oh, fucking cool.
Yeah, Serbian, Bosnian, a bunch of different
Yeah. Is that
angriest people in the world.
would you sort of consider that's like the area where like Europe and the Middle East sort of converge? Or
Yeah, actually, yeah. So Yugoslavia's here, and like Russia's up here,
Right.
And then Europe's over here, and then it kind of starts to get into that.
Yeah, it's like a very interesting.
Yeah, because then you get like into Algeria and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and
what
then the Middle
empire were they part of before that? Was it in like the Austro-Hungarian Empire?
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
It outside, it was.
East. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all that same kind of just mean, angry.
But it was
drunken people.
Austro-Hungarian, and then it became Russian.
Well,
Were
so
those the two forces?
then it was the Persian thing happened, and then the Russian thing.
Wow,
and then-
this is so you. Those are the 3, 4. You got the Persians, you got the
Yeah,
Russians, you got
and then
Austro-Hungarian.
after World War I, it evolved into Yugoslavia,
Right.
And then it broke apart because Serbia was the main nation,
Yeah.
and then Croatia was way over here, and they're like, we're out of here, we're our own nation, and then
Yeah.
everyone else was like, hey, we're gonna do that, and Serbia was
Yeah.
like, the fuck you are.
So it's still super contentious.
Yeah, oh,
over
yeah,
there?
very much so.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they just had a more recent genocide, right?
Yeah.
In fucking, I was just talking Albania.
Yeah, that's not a part of it, but
Okay,
yeah.
my bad.
No, yeah, but
I got
we
up to
during the
that point.
90s, there was a mass genocide of Serbian Orthodox just massacring the Muslim population.
God damn. Yeah.
And it was interesting because I don't know if you know Elvis. He's a Bosnian Muslim comic.
I would remember meeting a Bosnian Muslim named Elvis. I feel like.
So he tours a lot in the Southeast and stuff. That's how I met him.
Uh-huh.
Well, he tours all over the country, but I remember because I'm second generation. So my grandmother grew up during the war, the Civil War.
Right.
And then she fled to America with my grandfather. And I remember we just always knew we were Serbian.
Yeah.
Because it's law of blood. It's not where you're born, it's where your bloodline's from.
Right.
Most of Europe is like that. It's called jus segumente instead of jus soli, which is the law of the soil. So if you're born in America, you're American. In
Holy
Europe,
shit.
doesn't matter where you're born, your nationality is based on your bloodline.
Wow. It's so interesting. Okay.
I say all that just to say this one funny part. He said he was from Bosnia, and I was like, oh my god, my grandmother was born in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia.
Yeah.
She's Serbian by blood, but that's where she was born. And so I went up to him after his set, and I was like, dude, not even thinking. I go, dude, I'm Serbian, and he was like, went ghost white because the Serbian Orthodox were genocide against the Bosnian Muslims. And he's a Bosnian Muslim.
Yeah.
I was like, you're from Bosnia. That's crazy. I'm from Serbia. And he was just like, okay. and
Oh,
like started backing away.
Yeah.
And I told my grandmother about this. She goes, "You idiot! You idiot!" She goes, "We were not those kind of Serbians. You don't tell anybody that." And I was like, "Oh my god."
Is that? I don't want to overstep here, but is that being like, you're a Jew?
Yeah.
My family's
From Germany.
Nazis. Oh, okay. So I took it too far.
Yeah.
I mean, you can definitely do my family's from Germany, but you wouldn't go up and say it with glee. Like,
That's exactly how I did it. It'd be like, "You're Jewish? Oh my god, I'm from Germany."
Yeah. That's crazy because, dude, I
didn't even put that together until I told my grandma, and she was pissed.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, I don't know, we got off on a tangent there, but let's bring it back to you.
It's funny because now, never mind.
No, go ahead.
No,
We got plenty of time. Man.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so we got on that because we were talking about my family has a darker sense of humor and you guys are sillier. And so I know that's how it is with my cousin because he's the one who introduced me to stand up. So whenever anything happens, like I had a show at the Cellar a few Mondays ago and I immediately, like after the show, texted him and sent him the picture. And because I'm not past there, they were like, "Don't post anything, like just keep it on the QT." And I was like, "All right, no problem."
Yeah.
But I still like screenshotted the picture and sent it to him.
Cousin,
and he was like, "Fuck yeah, dude." Because he's the one who got me into stand up in the first place.
Hell yeah.
So do you do that kind of stuff with your brother? Like when you got passed at the Cellar, was he your first call?
I don't know if he was my first call. He was definitely a
Up
call.
there?
Yeah. I just called him. I had some good news that I got to call him with yesterday. And he's still an older brother. He'll still like give me advice about stuff and all that, you know? But yeah.
Do you ever be like, "I got it, man"?
I have to sometimes. I have to occasionally be like, thank you very much.
People in my family do that too. They're like,
Really?
"You were so good at impressions. Do the impressions thing." And I'm like,
Dude,
I know what I'm like.
my
I got it,
mom
you guys.
says that word for word all the time. She's like, "Why aren't you doing more impressions?" I'm like, she's not wrong. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I should do some impressions, but just leave me alone. Leave me alone with that. My mom, every time she calls, will just start, oh my God, she'll just drag it out and be like, "You should work clean. You should really why don't you just make it a challenge for yourself? Make it a fun challenge where you just say, 'Hey, I'm going to do 5 minutes clean.' You just start with 5 minutes and then you build."
Oh, is that how it works, Mom?
Yeah. It's fucking, I'm like, I got it.
She's gonna watch this.
She might. She's got Google alerts for everything that happens.
And I'm gonna put I always make sure to put the name in the SEO title.
Oh, is that right?
That way it pops up when people Google you.
She's gonna love this.
Well, I wanted to so when did you start comedy? You said you kind of, when people ask you, you say, "I started in college."
Yeah.
So where did you go to college?
I went to California State University at Northridge.
Oh, so you went to school out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't even start
Valley.
Yeah, you didn't even start comedy in Atlanta.
I mean, if we're counting being a kid, I did.
Well, yeah, and then
I got to perform at the Punchline in Atlanta as a kid, like twice.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So that's when you started comedy. You've been in comedy for 20 years.
I opened for a local guy that was big in the Southeast named Jerry Farber, and I opened for him on Thanksgiving Eve when I was like 11 or 12.
Get out of here, man.
Yeah.
You've been doing comedy 20 years.
No, I haven't. It doesn't count. I got into theater after that. I went to, because I was going to Catholic school in Atlanta on the north side until 8th grade. And then after that, my grades weren't that good. And I was into performing arts and shit. And it happened that the school in the neighborhood was a great performing arts high school. It was a magnet school. So everybody could come from all over Atlanta and go to that school. And it was a mile from my house. And they had an amazing theater program, because that's what I got into in middle school was theater more than stand-up. And so I went to that school, got into theater, and then I got into film production. And from getting into film production, I went out to LA to go to Cal State Northridge for their film production school.
And is that, you were out there all 4 years, 5 years?
5 years. I dropped out for a year and did straight stand-up from like 21 to 22.
Okay.
And then I went back and finished college when I was like 23, 24.
So what happened that triggered you to drop out completely to do stand-up? Were you doing open mics out there? Or
I started doing like the in-school mics maybe when I was 18. So I do them once every couple months when they were on campus. And then I remember I was trying to do a class. It was like, I had to take some bullshit music class or science class to satisfy my basic.
Yeah, your prerequisites and all that. Yeah.
So I was doing this physics of music. I was taking it online, and I was like, yeah, I like music, and I'm like, maybe it'll make me like physics. And I started taking this class, and I was like, I fucking hate it. And so I remember I just like stopped doing that work and started like working on a stand-up set. And then I went to a club that I could get to by bus because I didn't have a car in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Until like 3 or 4 years in. So I would take the bus to this other bus/train that would get me to the edge of the valley in North Hollywood to a club called the Ha Ha Cafe. And I started doing open mics there. And then I started getting more adventurous and venturing out, you know, to other mics like at Marty's on Sunset, which I don't know if anybody listening to this remembers Marty's, but fuck. And, you know, I was trying to do school and that, and then I was like, fuck this. My grandmother passed away, and she left me like a little bit of money, and I was like, I'm dropping out of school.
Okay.
I'm going to fucking do my thing. I'm going to do stand-up. And I lived on my buddy's couch and started doing stand-up, ran out of money in like fucking 4 months.
There you go.
5 months. I was also trying to start a t-shirt company with my friend, and it turned out he was stealing a bunch of my money. So I lost my friend in this t-shirt company. And then I ended up having to move in and work at this hostel on Venice Beach because I didn't have money, but you could work at this hostel cleaning rooms and they would let you live there for free. And that was a wild time where I stopped doing comedy. I went and did a show on Venice Beach. Like I just like talked to a guy at this bar by the hostel.
Yeah.
And he was like, we'll have you do a set in between our band. And I was like, cool, yeah.
Oh no.
And I went up and I was nervous about it, so I got drunk. And then I went on stage and I bombed like super hard, like brutal. And I had invited everybody from the hostel. Oh, no. And the guy that booked me, this is the worst I ever got heckled. I don't even know if it counts as a heckle, but I was on stage and the dude that booked me on it from off stage looks at me and through the silence, he goes, I thought you were funny, man.
Oh,
it was like the most
God.
brutal thing. I stopped doing stand-up for like 2 months after that.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
you had left college to pursue stand-up, and then after that, you just stopped.
After I moved into the hostel, I was sort of all in on like being a cool hostel guy.
Okay.
I was like going down to Venice Beach every day. I was walking around barefoot, bumming cigarettes. I thought it was like the coolest thing I'd ever done.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. And then that ended, and I was living on my buddy's couch. I went back to doing stand-up and making music with like my friends until my friend Brian was like, you need to go back to school.
Oh, okay. So they were like, hey, man, you're almost done. Just go finish.
Just go finish. So I went back to school. And then when I went back to school, you know, my parents were like, here is some money.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. They were like, we're not going to pay for you to
hang out.
Yeah.
To be
We're
Matthew
like,
McConaughey.
That was their big thing. They were always like, we're good parents. We're gonna pay for school, and that's what we can do. And then after that, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So I went back to school. You know, I finished, and then I did a year of stand-up in LA before I was like, I need to go back to Atlanta.
So you decided, even after doing stand-up in LA, instead of staying in LA or going to New York, you were like, I need to go home.
Yeah, because I was like, fuck this. Who wants to... I was like, I don't want to be an LA comedian. I was like, I'm from Georgia. I was like, my whole family's from Georgia. And I went back to Atlanta, and at that point, Max, my buddy Max, who I do the podcast with, had started doing comedy. So he was getting around the Atlanta scene. He like knew what to do, and he knew people and how to get around. So he's like, he had done a deep dive on it. So he's like, let me take you around. Let me show you what this is. And I remember I went back and visited, and I saw it. I was like, oh, this is better. Like, I met dudes that were like a year in that were funnier than me, and I had been doing it 3 years in LA. And it's just because they got the stage time, and they had a supportive place, and they had a cool places to get up, you know?
Well, and that's the thing about, like, I've noticed in New York since I moved here. So I got here, and I don't have like a big because I still to this day I rail against social media. I hate it.
Yeah,
because I find a lot of people are putting up bits before they're ready, or they're just doing like, oh, destroys a heckler, and then they throw it up, and then people see that, and then they start to think like, oh, we're a part of comedy shows. Like, the audience is supposed to shout out. Oh, because that's everything I see online.
Yeah.
Is the comics going back and forth with audience. So I've always like railed against it, but that's also because I'm very bad at it.
Sure, I'm bad at it too.
So I'm always just like, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, that shit sucks versus get better at it.
Yeah. It's hard, dude.
But then like Burner put me on a couple of her TikTok things. and I got like a bunch of people texting me from back home, like, do you know Hannah? Like, is this you with Hannah Berner? And I'm like, yeah. And I was wearing my merch because it was after a recording day.
Yeah.
And so I sold like 3 or 4 shirts from it. And I was like, oh, maybe there's something to this social media thing.
Of course.
But it's interesting. So when I get up here, I don't have a huge following. And so I was like, hey guys, I've been doing comedy like 10 years. I've got an hour. I've got the podcast. Like, where do I go to get my, where's the vice president of New York comedy so I can get my ticket? And they were like, oh no, open mics, dude. And I was like, no. I don't think you understand. Like, I've been doing open mics for a day. Like, I'm beyond open mics. And they go, yeah, the open mics, man, they're that way.
Bro.
And so now I've almost become like how Max was with you when you went to Atlanta. I've become that for Florida comics.
Yeah.
Like, especially Northeast comics, when they come up here, they're always like, hey, man. And I'll take them around to mics and introduce them to people and do that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I've now gone through it for the last year.
Yeah. So
So you get to Atlanta and you have to do that same kind of thing.
yes, but I have some advantages where I'm from Atlanta.
Yeah.
My family's there. I moved back in with my parents till I can find a place. But I'm from there, but I also have like 3 years of experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, elsewhere.
So it's like I am sort of this alien that moved in. Like, there was other people that tried to do that, to like move from LA to Atlanta to get more stage time, and they were presumptuous about it, and people were like, fuck you, like,
Yeah.
who the fuck are you? I at least had the advantage of also having a friend that was like, this is my friend Michael.
Yeah.
And he is from here, but he's also been doing stand-up somewhere else. So it's like I was able to get on shows and do pretty well. So
That was the hardest thing when I moved to New York, was not knowing anybody.
dude, when I moved to New York, I knew people, and it was like I was hitting mics like a motherfucker. And that was when I was drinking when I moved to New York.
Yeah.
And I was like grateful that I was, because I was just like, this is brutal.
It sucks.
At least I could. I think I had a lot of, dude, my thing, I would get little bottles of Popov.
Yeah.
Bro, or little bottles of fucking Smirnoff.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss it.
That was my go-to.
Dude, because it's so cheap, and it's like you're about to have a brutal night of mics. You can turn it up. You can make it a
You
little
can
fun.
make it happen.
You can make it fun, dude.
Well, I used to joke with everybody, because I tell people that towards the end of my alcoholism, towards the end of my drinking, I would do a handle of Smirnoff and a pack of cigarettes. It would cost me $18.93 out the fucking door.
Yeah.
And I was set for
Dude,
the night.
in Jacksonville, it was a handle and a fucking pack of smokes for 18.
Let's go.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
How far through the handle would you get?
I could finish a handle in 36 hours.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's good you stopped. It's really good you
Well,
stopped.
the reason I stopped, and I've
shit.
told this, the
Holy
listeners know this,
shit.
the reason I stopped was on my 30th birthday. I wasn't going to drink. I had no plans on drinking. And I got home from work, and I worked at a brunch place. So I got home at like 2, and I sat on my couch, and I was like, man, I'm 30 now. Like, I had not making any progress in my comedy career. I wasn't doing anything with my degrees. My twin sister, who was the troublemaker, was now married with kids and owned a home and was like living that, the happy life.
Yeah.
And I was waiting tables still at 30.
Yeah.
And I got so angry with myself. I was like, fuck this. And I went and I got a handle, drank the whole thing. And then the next, ended up getting another. Anyway, long story short, I ended up in the hospital with alcohol poisoning.
Oh my God.
And when the doctor came in, he was like, yeah, man, people who come in with this blood alcohol content they don't wake up. And I was like, yeah, well, I've been training for this my whole life. And he was like, yeah, you should have been dead hours ago. Like, this isn't funny. And I was like, all right, maybe it's time to.
Is that when you hung it up?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Good
my
on you
30th
for
birthday,
doing
so it was May 29th, 2018, and my sobriety date is May 31st.
That's a great
2018.
story, though. Your 30th birthday, you give yourself alcohol poisoning.
Bad, too.
And then bad. And then you just are like, yeah, I'll stop.
Well, I went to rehab in 2013. Like, I had a problem because I was living with my cousin in Oklahoma City for like 3 months.
Brutal.
And I was getting drunk every day and going to mics because that's just what I did.
Yeah.
But I would run the light. So I was I was way out of shape, but like I was still 6'1". I was like 280 or 260, but I was a former Division I athlete. So none of these nerds are going to pull me off stage.
Yeah.
So I'd be at a mic and I'd do like 12 minutes of like an Arnold impression just hammered out of my mind. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, don't give me the light. You get the light.
Holy shit.
For like 12
You're
minutes.
a terrorist, dude. You're a
It was so
terrorist.
bad. And I remember my cousin came to me and he said, hey, man, listen, we write together a lot. You've been doing comedy since 2009. So you've been doing comedy for like 5 years on and off. He's like, listen, if you can keep your shit together for 30 days and just stay sober and like go to mics and be respectful of the light and do the right thing, I'll reach out to people and I'll get you on some showcases and we'll start doing comedy for real up here. And I was like, all right, bet. I made it 28 days.
Damn.
And started drinking again. And when he came into the back room and he's like, what happened? I looked at him and I said, I don't know. And so that's when I went to rehab. And then I still didn't get sober for like 5 more years.
Sure,
but
yeah.
it was going to the hospital and the doctor was like, yeah, man, like this is it.
You
Like,
gotta-
you got to make a choice. And so I at that point I hit my bottom and I was
Sure.
like, all right, I'm done. And that's when I dove headfirst back into comedy. And I was like, fuck this. I'm going to New York. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing the thing. But then back to the point we were talking about, I got here and I've been here for a year and I knew a couple of people when I moved here, like Matt Fulcheron, who's become a friend over the last decade or so, and like a couple other people here and there. So I thought like knowing 1 or 2 people, it would help. But the scene is so big.
Vast.
It's insane. Even if you know 10 people, it's still not enough
No.
to make an impact.
I meet new people all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I was at JFL New Faces with a guy and I was like, where are you from, Pat? And he was like, New York. And I was like, fuck. Fuck, I should know that.
Really?
And then I looked at him on Instagram. I was like, fuck me, man. I'm really out of touch with some shit. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's just hard because it's such a big scene.
Yeah.
Because like
huge.
It
It's
still
huge.
happens. I work around the corner from the stand, which is why I go to the stand a lot more than I go to the cellar. And I go to hang out and stuff after work, or like I do the run of mics in the afternoon. So I'll be at mics from like 1 to 6. Then I go home, I change, and then I go to the stand, and that's where I'll get dinner and like hang out and network with people and stuff. And that's how I've booked a lot of people for the show, and it's been very beneficial. But there's still some nights I go to the stand and I look at the lineup. I don't know a single, like I know who the comics are, but I don't know any of them personally. And I was like, I come here 3 or 4 nights a week for the last year. And I've met hundreds of people and they still have shows where I don't know anybody. And I'm like, this is insane.
It's a fucking nuts thing. I meet people all the time where they're like, yeah, I do this every night. And you're like, where?
So I want to get back. You're in Atlanta. Max is taking you around. You're getting to know everybody. How long were you back in that scene before you decided to move to New York?
I think a little over 3 years.
And are you drinking a lot and partying when you're back home?
Woo, buddy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I know you referenced it at the top. You guys
I was
were
having
just
fun, dude. Atlanta, yeah, you get a little drunk, dude. Oh my god, either you're fucking hanging around East Atlanta Village, maybe you're at Star Bar, little 5 Points, doing, it's the whiskey beer combo, Boilermakers,
Yeah.
maybe a Miller High Life for me. A lot of people like PBR and that well whiskey, and you get a little dirty Coke. Have a night. I mean, that brings me to the first story. I think was the first time, or no, the second time I stopped drinking at length. Because my whole thing is like, I'll stop drinking for stretches.
Yeah.
I'll take long breaks. But this one was like bad. I probably should have just stopped for good after.
What happened?
Dude, okay, so I was at the Laughing Skull Lounge in Atlanta, and this must have been like, it was over 5 years ago.
Okay.
I think.
So like 26?
26. Yeah, exactly. And I'm walking outside. I'm already kind of drunk. We had just done shows. There's a bar.
Now, are you doing, at this point in your career, are you doing shows or are these open mics or are you actually like showcases?
I'm doing
Okay.
shows. I'm one of the more established comics
Okay.
in Atlanta.
So you
Or
got
the-
back to
the part of
Atlanta
the
at
scene I
24?
run in. Yes. Yeah, 24.
And then 2 years later, now you're doing shows, showcases,
Everything's
stuff like
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you threw that little qualifier on there. The scene I run in.
I mean, no, that's
just because it's like
true.
Atlanta's like New York. There's a big scene there.
Yeah. And there's, yes. Okay, so I'm at the Laughing Skull Lounge, just connected to the Vortex, which is a bar. We're drinking there. I come outside. There's this homeless dude that's got all this Navy memorabilia. He's like, I was in the Navy. I was like, oh, my dad was in the Navy. And he was like, oh, yeah? And I was like, yeah, my dad was a Seabee, that's like a naval engineer.
Okay.
It's a specific wing of the Navy. And the homeless guy was like, man, I always wanted to be a Seabee. And I was like drunk. So I was like, well, brother, how about you come in this bar and I buy you a couple drinks? And he comes in, homeless dude, and I'm just buying shots and beers. I can't even afford this. And I get this dude hammered. I get myself hammered, and to the point where I have to leave. And I leave this homeless guy with like 2 beers and a shot. And I'm like, all right, bye. And then I leave and I'm wasted. And I think the norm in Atlanta at that time was like, you know, you can get away with driving drunk if you're, you know, not an idiot about it. You keep it in the road.
Yeah.
It seemed to be accepted, at least to me. And I went to my car. It's a progressive thing. You get too comfortable doing it.
Okay. Well, at least to me.
I'm trying to make excuses for myself.
The car drives itself. I tell people this all the time. I go with power steering and the technology nowadays, 10 and 2, and it'll just stay straight.
Yeah, you just keep it straight. But listen, I go to Taco Bell.
We don't condone drinking and driving here on Extra.
Not at all. Not at all. Please don't do it. Oh, God.
I've gotten 2 DUIs.
It worries me just thinking about it. And this DUI has fucked me since then. It's just not worth it. Never do it. Dude, I had to pay $1,800 to a Canadian lawyer just to go to Canada.
Yeah, that's it. Long story short, there's a podcast I really like, and we were all getting on a Zoom call, all the fans of it, because it's not that big. So we were doing a Zoom call during the pandemic, and they have a lot of Canadian listeners. And one of them happened to be a defense attorney in Canada. So I straight up asked her, I was like, hey, Montreal, JFL, like that's a big deal. I was like, can I ever go to Canada? She said I had to wait 5 years from my probation to go. Mm-hmm. Like the end of my probation, I had to wait 5 years. So that's 2 years after the DUI itself.
Right.
So 5 years after probation, I have to pay $4,000 in like fines. And then I had to handwrite a letter to the magistrate about like apologizing for my actions.
I hand wrote a letter and I paid this lawyer and he got me a temporary residence permit.
Okay.
And yeah.
Because they take DUIs real seriously.
They do, Canada. But I will say when I was coming over the border, it felt like it didn't matter as much as the lawyer wanted me to feel like it
My
mattered.
girlfriend all the time is like, we'll just go up there and then just scan the passport. And I was like, no, the computers sound off.
I mean, that's what they say is that when they scan the passport, your FBI record comes up.
Okay.
It's true.
Because Kinane said he had to go back.
Well, this is the thing, is Kinane made a bunch of trips up there with no problem, and then all it takes is one trip. It's dependent on
the person at
the border. It really is. Anyway.
So you're hammered. You leave the bar.
I go to Taco Bell.
You're driving at this point.
I'm driving at this point.
You're mobile.
I'm mobile. I go through the Taco Bell line. I order food. In the Taco Bell line, I get a text from my buddy Andrew Markle, who's a great comedian, but was also a manager at the Vortex at that time. And he goes, hey, you're banned from the Laughing Skull. And I was like, what? And he goes, Michael, you brought a homeless man inside the bar. You got him drunk, and then you left him there. You're banned. And
you paid your tab though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
because the whole time when you said I left and I was wasted, I was like, oh, you didn't pay your bill.
I paid the bill.
Okay.
But Andrew said I was banned.
They were mad.
They were mad, but I was like, it'll be fine.
You brought a homeless man.
I black out, and I wake up, and I have a cop banging on my window, and my car has hit a pole.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I wake up to a cop banging on my window going, stop the car, stop. And apparently what happened was the cop found me pulled over on the side of the road. I had half the burrito eaten, and it was resting on my stomach, and I had fallen asleep. The cop comes and knocks on the window. I wake up, I wave at him, and then I just drive away.
Oh my God.
Okay. So,
hey.
So I said, yeah, you're right. I'll get out of here.
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry about that. And I don't remember this, but I drive away, and I drive away very slowly, and the cop follows in pursuit very slowly. And I think I drive for like a mile, away. I cross over into another lane of traffic with the cop.
Does he have the lights on and
stuff? He has the lights on. He's buzzing me. He's calling me. I recently read the police report again.
Don't do that.
I know it's such. And he follows me. He follows me. I cross over 2 lanes of traffic. I slowly come up on a curb. I hit that pole. And then I come to basically trying to accelerate through the pole, which for me was, I think, the scariest part. Was realizing, he takes me, arrests me, puts me in holding. But I just remember sitting in holding being like, I wake up trying to accelerate through something. I was like, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
That my brain is shut off and then your
body's
still
like,
go,
we gotta go.
Go. It's like, who could I have, dude, it was like, it was mortifying to think about who I could have hurt or what I could have done. And I'm not saying this to like earn points, but even thinking about it now, it's like, it like fucks me up.
I used to, the same thing when I was in college and stuff. I used to look out my apartment window. I'd wake up after a blackout and I'd look out my apartment window and my car so many times sideways in a parking spot.
Oh, God, dude.
And I go down and you check for blood and like,
holy shit.
Well, because you have to, like, I don't know. I don't even remember leaving the bar.
God damn. Dude, I remember, I was put in holding for a while.
What was the official charge?
Dude, there were like 6
I was going to
charges.
say, because both DUIs I've gotten, one, I wasn't even driving. I was sitting in a parked car. So all I got was the DUI.
Right.
The first one, they said I hesitated at a light. The light turned from red to green. I was with a girl and I was like talking to her. So I wasn't paying attention. And I looked up and I go, oh, green light. And I went. They had been following me since I left the bar.
Yeah.
They knew I was hammered. They can't pull you over under suspicion.
They need
They
to do
they
something.
have to have a reason.
Right.
So they pulled me over for like endangerment or like whatever because I didn't go through the light fast enough.
Yeah.
But they got me. But both times it was like there was no accident, thank God. There was nothing happened. It was just like they were like, oh, this guy's wasted. We got to catch him. So both times I had just gotten a DUI. But you
I got
ran
7
from
charges.
a cop. Yeah.
I got 7 charges.
God.
And at that point, I got out of jail. I remember my mom came and picked me up.
Was she
And when
pissed?
she picked me up, dude, I think she saw that I was so mad at myself. Like I was crying. It really did fuck me up. Trying to accelerate through the pole and thinking like how I could have hurt somebody. That fucked me up. And my mom could be a disciplinarian, but she's also like, she'll let you
Figure it out.
I was already beating myself up pretty good. She was actually kind of too nice about it. Now that I think about it. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure she could see the remorse in your face.
For sure.
So she was like, oh, he already knows what he did.
Yeah. And then after that, I stopped drinking for like over a year after that.
Well, what happened? Because a lot of times when I listen to podcasts and stuff, people always tell like the meat of the story, and then they're like, yeah, and then anyway. I'm so curious as to how things happen after that. So did you just get the DUI? Did you get all 7, if you don't mind talking about it? Did you get hit with all 7 charges, or
so
did you have to do like community service?
The thing
or
was, I
probation,
was like, I need a lawyer because I think I could go to jail.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot. It wasn't just a DUI. It was a lot of shit. So I got in contact with a lawyer through somebody recommended, and I had to pay him like $3,500 to defend it, and they got it dropped down to just the DUI. But there was a lot of stuff I had to do because this dude's like a lawyer. He's a mover and shaker in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Which was cool to go to court with him because he like knows everybody.
Yeah.
And I was like so nervous about what I did. And he was
Your
like,
Honor, how you doing today? Hey, Billy,
like
how the
that.
kids?
He's like that. And he was a cool guy. You could tell his moral scruples were, he'd been a lawyer for a long time. So he's like, listen, man, don't worry too much. He's like,
They want the money from the DUI.
hey, you know what everybody kept saying to me was like, everybody gets one. You get one, okay? You
talk about that on stage, don't you?
And no, but I swear to God, it was echoed. I even feel like the cops were like,
I could've sworn
listen,
I've
you
heard
get
you say
one.
this before.
The lawyer said you get one. I was like, why is everybody saying you get one? But I remember he was like, listen, you get one. And keep this in perspective. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm driving up to Alpharetta to talk to one of my old friends from law school. Had sex with a 17-year-old girl. Okay? You're doing fine. I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, what? But he was a good doctor. And I found out later that Andrew Markle, the guy that said I was banned from the Laughing Skull, He's a bartender at the Vortex, the bar the Laughing Skull is connected to. And it turns out my lawyer would go to the Vortex twice a week and like tie one on during lunch. Like
really?
He would go in and throw back 2 or 3. Yeah, he was fucking loose. He wasn't judging anybody. But he asked me if I wanted to come into the courtroom. What he did was he pushed it through the system for longer, so it took longer to come through. And he was like, you never know. Sometimes they lose records. Like he was trying to like extend it out for like a year or 2. And he said in that time to do everything that would be required of me because I would be charged with UI. It was like, they're not going to make it reckless driving. You fucked up too bad. So it was like I did 40 hours of community service. You go to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You do the driving
So
school.
you had all that stuff before you were even...
Before I went in court, I had all that stuff done. I had to go do a drug and alcohol assessment, and the guy, on a scale of 1 to 10 on my scale of being, what's the word? My proclivity for drug and alcohol dependence, he put me at like a 6 or a 7, which I was like, yeah,
that makes
7 sounds about right. I can stop it if I really need to, but if I'm going...
It's going.
I'm going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So...
See, I never had that first part.
I remember all that.
I never had the first part.
The first part?
The stopping if I really needed to.
Yeah.
Once it turns on, the only thing that would stop me was jail or the hospital.
Damn.
Like literally every single day. Wake up, do shots for breakfast, drive to work.
Mine has always been if I got embarrassed enough or I went on enough of a... I think the time I stopped before that for a year when I was in college... I like got drunk at this Lithuanian festival and just made an ass of myself and like didn't, and then I sort of blacked out and drank my way through Los Angeles. Like I drank at this fucking bar in downtown Los Angeles, and then I stumbled through, public transportation, and I woke up in Granada. No, I woke up, dude, way out on a bus in Chatsworth. Like anybody that knows Los Angeles, dude, I was in Los Feliz. I went to downtown Los Angeles, and then I ended up drunk coming out of a blackout in a bus in Chatsworth, and the bus driver literally stopping the bus and being like, "Where are you going, man?" I was the only guy on the bus. He dropped me off at a gas station, not even a bus stop. And I called a taxi from that gas station. And then I stopped drinking after that. So it's usually after like hard blackouts, I would hang up my skates.
So then when you went to court finally for the DUI, was everything...
I had been not drinking for a while at that point.
And then you had done everything, right?
It had been over a year, and I got a new girlfriend, and I was nervous. It was my first girlfriend, actually. I remember I started drinking just because I was so nervous about having a partner. And it was cool. Like, we had a lot of fun, and I think we were good about... She was good about drinking and not taking it too far and sort of being like, what are you doing? And so that carried up until when I got to New York. And then I got to New York and I was drinking, and then...
Did you go... You had mentioned earlier you were drinking, like doing open mics and stuff. Did you get crazy when you got to New York?
No, because New York is good. New York is good in the way that I had grown up I still had the shame of that, like, terrible DUI.
Yeah,
and the knowledge...
because that was just a few years before.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't driving, and so... I also was pretty committed to not making an ass of myself. So the good thing about New York is, like, the second you feel yourself over the line, the second you feel like, ooh, I'm making a bit of a fool, you can just go.
Yeah.
You can go. You don't have to drive. You can take the train. It gives you time to really think about what you're doing, and also sit in it if you feel bad. So the next day you're more prone to, like, I don't want to do that again.
Well, and you moved to New York for comedy, correct?
Yes.
So
yeah.
Well, and so that's the other thing too. Yeah. So it's like one of those things where you want to have a good time, but you also don't want to burn bridges in the one reason you came here.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
And I think I was better about having fun with it and not being crazy. But even from my roommate's perspective, my roommates like didn't drink. I was still coming home and like falling asleep on the couch and like snoring and doing shit like that.
The drunken snores,
with like
man.
little bottles of Smirnoff. And it's hard to be like, I don't have a problem when you're like downing a little bottle of Smirnoff every night and nobody else is doing that. You're like, no, you don't get it. It's just like, I'm here to have fun, but not to waste money. I'm here to have fun, but not to waste all my money.
I used to... because my thing was such a thing that I used to get the 6-packs of those minis back in Florida. You could buy
Are we
them.
talking airplane bottles?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm
airplane.
like the little half pint
Okay,
joints
okay.
that go right in your back pocket.
Yeah.
It's like a little hip flask.
Yeah.
It's like a little hip flask.
I used to get the 6-packs of the airplane one for like $8. You could get a little 6-pack.
Yeah.
And I would, so in my Maxima, I had the center console, but then it had like a false bottom.
You motherfucker.
So I'd put all 6 in the false bottom.
Yeah.
And so then when I would be like driving, like home or to work or wherever, if I'd start to feel a little like a little shaky,
Yeah.
just like pull out the false bottom, good
Drop
to go.
it. How long you been sober now?
4 years, a little over 4 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
You did programs? Stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah. So I went to rehab, and then when I worked the program, it was actually relatively easy to stay sober when I was doing the work. But then I just stopped doing the work.
Yeah.
And I convinced myself I had overreacted by going to rehab, that I was only 26,
You did
25.
not. Based on your stories, you have not at all.
Well, I was only 25 and I had been to the hospital twice before for alcohol poisoning, but it wasn't as bad as the last time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm 25. I've got a good job. I had a girlfriend at the time who later became my fiance, who later became my ex-fiance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I overreacted. And I started drinking again. And then I just could not get more than 6 months together.
Yeah.
Like, and terrible things would happen. And I'd be like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'd say this all the time, but my drinking was a lot. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Hook with Robin Williams.
Of course.
But my drinking was a lot like Neverland. That's how I relate it to people in AA and stuff. It's like the further away you get from it, you forget.
Yeah, you forget how bad it can get.
Yeah,
you
so
forget
like
how deep in it.
and
can get.
I talk about that all the time because it's like one of those things. That's why I love doing this show, because when I talk about it, it's a constant reminder of how bad it got.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do this and I just go to meetings and like I don't do as much service work as I'm supposed to, I will genuinely, like Robin Williams in that movie, just completely forget about everything that I went through.
Yeah.
And then I'll start drinking again, and it's like when he goes back in the movie, and it's like, oh yeah,
That's real. That's absolutely real.
and so this has been a total blessing because of that. So when you stop drinking after the DUI, you get to New York, you start drinking again with the girlfriend, and then when did this Scotland thing happen? Was that while you were still in Atlanta, or was
Scotland
this in New York?
happened, oh man, that was in high school.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought this was like a recent thing for like Edinburgh or something like that.
No. This was something that happened in high school to me and Max.
Well, let's go back in time then. Let's get in the time machine and
This
go back
is
to
when
high
we
school.
were at that theater school.
Yeah.
That was good. And they invited us to do the Fringe Festival in Scotland.
So it was for Fringe.
Yeah.
Just not for comedy.
No.
Okay.
It was for a musical called Bat Boy the Musical. When I went to that school my freshman year, I got to go to the Fringe Festival to do Urinetown, which was a great place. So like, we were the only high school they invited back.
Wow.
So 2 years later, I'm a junior, and like we get to go back to Scotland.
So when
I'm
people
like, let's go.
when people go to like Fringe and stuff now, you're like, yeah, I'm kind of a veteran.
No, I don't feel like. I feel like it's a completely different experience. I think it's got to be incredible to go as an adult and do stand up. It's got to be so much fun. I just remember the fun I had as a kid and the freedom, and it's like, wow.
So what happened? How did you end up being asked to leave?
When I was a freshman and I was a freshman, so I was hanging out with freshmen, and you sort of heard titters about, the upperclassmen has had some drinks last night and they got a little wild. Who cares? They're 18. And then when we were going to go, when I was a junior, some of the teachers were like, I'll buy a beer in Scotland. You know what I mean? There's having fun. And
Yeah,
they're
cool.
like, yeah, we can have some fun up
Cool
there.
teachers.
And then we got up there and the kids started drinking like animals.
Like aggressively?
Some of them, yeah. And then one night I got wasted.
I love how you said it in the third person. You're like, some of the kids, like myself.
Like myself. I really tried to push away blame when it's like all on me. And dude, it was just one of those things. I started drinking and we just went until, we're fucking high school kids.
Yeah.
And I'm wasted and I'm trying to walk back into. They had to stay at one of the university's dorms.
Okay.
And and you got to check in, and you sign an agreement with the festival, the high school portion of it, that you're not going to drink. And I walk back in stumbling.
Oh no.
Yeah. And they're just looking at me. And I remember I get to my room and the teacher comes out. He's like, Michael, come out, walk in a straight line. And then I really can't. And then he's like, all right, go back to your room. And then I get pulled out and I get pulled into this room and it's like all the teachers, and they're like, what did you do tonight? And I'm like, nothing. They're like, we know you drank. I was like, I didn't drink. They're like, we know you drank.
You drank.
I was like, I drank a bottle of vodka with Max Fine. Like I ratted out. I wouldn't even think, man. I was wasted. And then from there, they had pulled in another couple kids, and then from there, they pulled in more kids, and then
Oh, so everyone's getting tagged.
everyone's getting tagged up, and it ended up being like 30 to 40 of us end up getting sent home, and we don't get to keep doing the play in Scotland.
Oh, man.
They canceled the whole trip.
So,
We get sent home early. It's in the news.
wow.
It's in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It's some headline like "Tippling Teens Ruin Show."
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
there was
bad.
40 of you, so it wasn't all on you.
I don't know.
but-
It does. When I think about it, it does feel like it was a lot of my fault. I was one that was very vocal, and I feel like I'm the one that I was.
That's
like
why
the
you
tip-
were in the school in the
I
first
was
place.
like the tip of the iceberg, and I've always felt a little bit responsible. They always said it was this other kid that was responsible, and I was like, nah. I think I had a bigger hand in it.
You're taking credit. You're like, no. I ruined that trip.
Dude,
It
now
was me.
that we're talking about it, like, yeah, I just shouldn't drink ever. I'm just like, God damn.
It's like I said a few minutes ago. That's my favorite part about doing the show. Like, I'll talk to my sponsor sometimes. He's like, "When's the last time you were at a meeting?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I did 3 episodes this week. That's kind of the same thing."
Yeah. We're just telling stories. Damn, dude.
So you end up coming home, and did you at that point? Because you weren't a big partier in high school, were you?
In high school, I smoked more weed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you came home, you didn't. There wasn't like a big like intervention, like, oh, we got to talk to Michael, kind of a thing.
No, it was like all the kids that got kicked out had to go to like a DARE program
Okay.
or get suspended. That was it.
One or the other.
One or the other.
Yeah, that's like
And
the
then that
pre-trial
same year,
intervention.
when I came back from my senior year, our head theater teacher, the one that put on this whole production, he got fired because they brought drug dogs to school and found a bong in his car.
Oh God.
But it was like this open secret. Everybody knew Mr. Blank or whatever smoked weed. But that was the thing. He was like a great theater teacher. Like
Yeah.
we had a great theater program. So, we had a principal change and the school sort of changed and there was a changing of the guard. And it was a lot of things happened at once. You
Yeah.
know, we got kicked out of Scotland and Kimmel got fired. It was a whole thing.
God, man.
Yeah.
So
People in Atlanta like to party, though.
yeah. That's not that goes without saying. I
Yeah.
mean, we've all hot Atlanta, man. It's hot
To
Atlanta.
Atlanta. It is, but I do think back more about the culture of it. It's like, yeah, we've been getting fucked up for a long time. God damn.
Well, I've had people on here. Like, I didn't start drinking until after I was a senior in high school. Like, I was a senior in high
Really?
school when I started drinking.
Dude,
Yeah.
I started drinking because I was in Mobile for my cousin's wedding. I was in Mobile, Alabama, and my older cousins were
How old are
focused
you?
on. Bro, I mean,
12?
12,
Yeah.
13,
Yeah.
something like that.
Get some.
And my fucking cousins are focused on getting my older brother drunk because he's like, 17, 18. They're like, yeah, we're going to get Johnny drunk. And this is a party where it's like, we're in Mobile. We're at this big event hall that's sort of on the water, on the marsh. And for the event, it's a wedding party. They took this big boat, a type of boat that would have a motor on the back.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
controlled by
outboard,
hand. Yeah. My cousins took a boat like that and they filled it with boiled crawfish. So that's the party. It's us like taking boiled crawfish out of this
boat?
Yeah, it was fucking awesome. And everybody's focused on my brother. And then I go to the bar, back to the bartender who's got a whole keg and he's just serving drinks for people. And I go up to the keg and I put the hose to my cup and I look at the bartender like, huh? And the bartender goes, I ain't telling nobody. Filled my little cup with
Hell
beer
yeah.
and I just got a little, I don't remember it. I don't think I caught a buzz, but I think I did it just to feel naughty. Actually, I think the first time I drank, my dad was wasted with his buddy from the Navy and he had been drinking wild turkey. And I was like, what's that? Can I try that? He goes, you want to try that? You want to try that? And then he
That
gave me a
101,
sip of
man.
wild turkey. Yeah. And I spit it up in the sink. And I think he was like, yeah, that'll teach you to drink.
Yeah.
He was like, I was like, yeah, you did. You
It's
just-
gasoline.
But it was definitely made me like, damn, that shit is harsh.
Yeah, it was. God, I remember the first time. But the reason why it was so interesting to me and like so captivating was I suffer still to this day with anxiety and depression and all the
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I ever did like shots, I was like, oh, like everything washed away, and I was like, oh, it's go time.
That is something I've realized as I've gotten older, and I don't like saying anxiety or like I've got anxiety because it's like I feel like everybody does. Everybody's nervous all the time. But I'm like, damn, I think I was like, wow, I was really using booze to like assuage that.
Self-medicate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is cool once you cut the booze out, your brain levels out.
It fires, yeah. On
Yeah,
different. I was diagnosed, and I have a bit about this, about the whole quirky Gemini. Turns out science has a different word for it. They call it bipolar 2.
Oh, you're bipolar too.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
So I have significant mood swings.
Oh shit.
So like I literally will be on the couch with my girlfriend watching Modern Family, like just reruns, and I'll just start crying.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Or I'll be walking down the street and someone will just be walking slowly and I'll think, I'm going to slam your fucking face through the concrete.
Shit.
Like it's just
I felt
massive.
that.
It's just, but for me, the problem is like, so like at work, everyone jokes about like how Brennan's a rage monster.
Yeah.
So at work, like it all stems from expectations. So if I expect everyone to work as hard as I do and then they don't, I literally have taken glasses before and been like, what the fuck is going, and like shattered glasses.
God damn.
Yeah.
God damn.
So it swings pretty epically. And like it literally will go from like me and my girlfriend doing baby talk to her saying something that like I don't quite agree with to all of a sudden I'm screaming.
Yeah.
And so the pendulum swings. So, but again, the booze was a way that I was able to kind of mask that, because if you just drank enough, if I just drank enough to be numb, then nothing really bothered me.
Yeah.
And so that was something, now getting sober, because I don't take any medications. So that's something that I've really had to deal with, because like you said, everyone's nervous.
Yeah.
And I always say all the time, like, oh, my anxiety is not like other people's anxiety. Like, you're nervous to fly on a plane. My whole thing is like, oh my God, I'm late for work. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to be homeless. And then I vomit into a trash can. Like, that's my kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
But still, being sober has been eye-opening to what triggers certain things with anxiety. Because there's sometimes I'll just go to a mic and have a bad set at a mic. You know, join the club. Everyone has bad sets at mics because they're mics. Mm-hmm. Comedians don't buy tickets, is what we always have to remember.
Right.
But then it'll just like, my head will just start going crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this was a dumb idea to move to New York. Like, I'm an idiot. Like, I don't have any real friends up here. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, my comedy's not funny. It's made for like very disturbed individuals, and those people don't buy tickets, and like I'll start spiraling out of control. So it's good to know what does it now, because now instead of drinking, I can just kind of rein it back in.
For sure.
And working out helps a lot.
I think working out does help out a lot. I mean, I have to do it. I mean, pretty much every day.
Yeah, I work
And it
out
makes me
6 days a
feel
week.
great. Yeah,
2 hours a day.
It's awesome. 2 hours.
Yeah.
I brought down my numbers a bit. I definitely, when I'll stop drinking, I'll like start going hard on something. But now I'm very much into like movement culture, and just like I make sure my working out is like, it's like 45 to an hour. I make sure I'm in the sun.
Oh, that's smart.
And I make sure I'm going through like full ranges of motion. I'm trying to like build strength and flexibility and shit.
There you go.
I got gymnastics rings. I'm trying to be a little fucking gymnast, baby.
Okay, trying to be like American Ninja Warrior.
I'm trying to do like handstands and shit.
See, I'm a power lifter, so like at 34, I'm putting up 415 on the bench, and it's like, who is this for?
Dude, it's for you.
Yeah, right?
It's for you. I realized a lot of the anxiety I feel, it just like comes from fear. And I think your whole life you expect booze to make it so you have the courage to do things. And sometimes it works, but sometimes then you're just drunk and scared.
Yeah.
And you're just disappointed. And I do feel an immense sense of accomplishment and an easing of my anxiety if I do things that I'm scared of.
Yeah, and
that helps build confidence too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I love that you brought that up. So when I last got sober, I remember there were certain things before that I would just start drinking about.
Yeah.
So like if I got like the wrong schedule at work, like if I got all closing shifts, I'd be like, fuck this. I hate my job. I'm just going to go get hammered.
Yeah.
So then I would start doing little things sober that I had never done sober before. Like getting a shitty schedule and being like, oh, that's the roll of the dice. You know, shit happens. And then the more I did those things, the more I was able to like walk through those fires sober, the more, the harder the thing I could do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it started building on itself.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I was 3 months sober, I called my sponsor and I was like, listen, man, if it's going to be working 2 jobs, going to the gym every day and meetings, like you can have it. Like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen, first of all, you need to do more service work with others, and you need to find something you're passionate about. And that's when I was like, oh, comedy. Like I'd forgotten. And so then I got back into stand-up, and it was so hard doing those first couple of shows sober. When you stopped drinking this last time, did you notice that comedy was a little different?
Oh, dude, I don't worry about it now, but that used to be a gigantic fear.
Yeah.
It used to be huge. Because when I started doing comedy, that was the fun. I would get like lit.
Yeah.
And then I'd get on stage and be like, this is fun as shit. And it still is. I still think of it as fun in my mind. So when I first stopped drinking, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be funny. And every time I've stopped drinking, I mean, 3 3 times I think I've stopped and I've been like, I don't know if I'm going to be funny. This last time I stopped, I did not have that fear at all.
Yeah.
Because every time before that I stopped, it was like I was funny. But I had to check in and recognize that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had to check in and be like, hold on, I just killed. And I killed like I did when I was drunk, maybe even better. And I thought I needed to be drunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to take the time to recognize like, man, I was fucking loose as shit up there. And I didn't drink at all. I was just loose. I was just loose because I felt good about what I was doing. So you got to take it to, but you don't need to drink to be funny. Not at all.
No, and that was one of the things that I was nervous about when I got up here was because I hadn't had a drink in 3 years when I moved up here. So I wasn't worried about drinking, but I was just worried about doing comedy in New York. And I remember the first big show I did, like the first big show I did was at the Stand. I was going to the Stand all the time, and I finally got asked to be on, I asked to be on a produced show there. And I was like, finally, I hang out at this bar all the time, and meet comics and stuff. And now I'm finally going to perform here. And it went okay, which is the worst.
Yeah.
Because if you bomb, you at least can learn from it. And if you crush, you crush. But it just went okay. And I was so disappointed. And then I did the show at the Cellar, and I was, again, what we were just talking about. I was so nervous for the Stand, but because I had done a show at a major club in New York, I wasn't as nervous for the Cellar. I mean, it's still the Cellar, but it's the lounge. It's not, you're not in the main room or anything. And I remember I got up there and I said something, and as soon as I said something, somebody shouted out from the audience, and I was like, yeah, shout it out, let's go. And I just was so loose.
Yeah.
And then ended up doing so well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is fun.
Dude, sometimes that is what you gain. Even if you just do okay on a set, sometimes it's the type of thing where it'll give you confidence later on because you've at least already done a set that was challenging for you
exactly.
or scary for you.
I wanted to ask you before we leave, because we've got time for one more story. We've talked about it this whole time. This is the elephant in the room. You are from Atlanta. Uh-huh. The home of the Atlanta Falcons.
Uh-huh. Oh, the Super Bowl story?
Yeah.
Dude. Okay. Wait,
is this
first
the 28-3?
Dude, yeah, this was oof. It's not even that good a story if I'm being honest.
Okay.
But I'm curious, what are the acts of service you do now?
I sponsor people. I like anything can be an act of service.
Really? It's just like regular community service?
No, so an act of service is like if an alcoholic calls me, I pick up my phone. I don't ignore it. And I talk to them. There's a couple people, I won't say obviously on the podcast because it's anonymous, but there are a couple people I know in comedy that are also in the program, and I talk to them about certain things. And there's just acts of service are just getting outside of yourself
and doing something for somebody. I mean, I just feel like I asked because it's something I feel like I'm lacking, and it's something I used to be better about, where I would like occasionally volunteer and
like
stuff.
You coming on here to do the show and what the show's about. I'd consider that an act of service.
Fuck yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like you're giving up your time, and especially because you're past to the Cellar. You're a very established comedian in New York. Like you don't have to come do this fucking hobo from fucking Jacksonville.
I'm glad
podcast.
I did. This is fun.
Yeah,
this is fun.
So yeah,
I like that we can talk about how bad we fucked up, and it is fun, but we're also not condoning it.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No,
trust me, I'm doing a one-man show about this right now. If anybody has to fucking go through what I went through, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Dude, when I started drinking again after almost a year not drinking, I was like talking to this lady on a cruise where I thought we were connecting, where I was like, yeah, it gets a little wild sometimes. She's like, yeah, man, I was doing acid on the Lower East Side, being like, where's my fucking car? Like, and I was like, yeah, I know that. I've been doing some acid too. And mind you, I just started drinking after not doing it for like a year. I'm a little disappointed in myself. And then the lady's like, I was like, so can I get you a drink? She's like, I'm sober. I was like, oh, you caught me. She caught me with like relating to me about like fun little like getting fucked up stories. I was like, she's like me. And then I'm like, let me get you a drink. And she was actually like, actually, no. Her name is Snow. And she was so cool. And I sort of confided in her about my shame a little bit throughout that week, especially as like my energy, because this is my first week drinking again, as my energy just like depleted.
Yeah, completely goes away.
My health just deteriorated. And
it's so fast, too.
By the end, I was like surrounded by these people in the program that just ended up, we were all talking. It happened organically. And then Snow messaged me like, I wonder if you noticed the trifecta of sobriety that was surrounding you. And I was like, Snow, don't do this right now. I'm not ready for this right now, Snow.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I just know from my experience, only alcoholic, like in my experience when I talk to another alcoholic, that's what gets through to them. It's not their parents telling. I tell this story all the time, but and I tell it to remember one of my closest friends from the halfway house, Tony Betts. He better bet on bets. He was going to get sober for his parents because he was doing heroin and he was stealing from them and he felt like shit. So he was going to get sober for them. And then he couldn't. He ended up relapsing. And then he got together with this girl and he was going to get sober for her. I'm going to stay straight for her. And then he just couldn't. And then she got pregnant and he had a son and he was going to get sober for his son. And then before his son's second birthday, Tony died.
God damn.
Yeah. So I think about that all the time because it's like one of those things where it's like only people who have been through that kind of and like I almost died. And like people who have been to that level of like, oh no, because you like to have a couple of drinks with your buddies on the weekend. That's like, we're not the same. Because I'll have people come up to me and like, oh, I'm so hungover. I think I have a problem. And it's like,
no, there's a gene, bro.
Yeah. Like,
there's like a gene.
I don't think you know what it means to have a problem.
Yeah.
Like I almost died. One of my closest friends can't raise his son. That's a problem. Texting your ex-girlfriend is shitty, but not a problem.
Yeah. It is something that I haven't like totally made my peace with yet when I think about it too. Like I don't claim like I'm an alcoholic, but I'm pretty sure all the evidence sort of points to
well,
it.
And it's up to, and the point of telling that story is it's up to every individual. Like I have to recognize that no one else, and it says it in the big book and all the literature is like, no one can tell you you're an alcoholic. You have to understand it for yourself.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's something I grapple with. Just try to live well.
Yeah, just do the right thing, man.
Just do the right thing. So you want to hear the Falcons?
We got like 2 minutes. Can you do it in 2 minutes?
I can do it in 2 minutes. This is a fast story. So the whole point was for the Falcons when we lost to the Patriots, this was just a bad drinking story because I feel like I let my friends down, but in like a fun way.
There's a common thread.
Dude, somebody gets hurt.
The title, I let him down.
So the Falcons are playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and it's the first half of the game, and we are blowing these motherfuckers out.
Blew the
and
doors
Atlanta's
off of
going
them.
nuts. We are fucking. Oh my God, we're stoked. I'm at this party. I'm drinking. I'm having a great time. And we get to halftime, and Lady Gaga's on the screen. I've been the pace car all night. I've been the guy leading the charge. I'm like, we're getting fucked up. Falcons in the Super Bowl. Ooh, woo.
They're winning the Super Bowl at that point.
Last thing I remember is Lady Gaga doing the thing where she jumps off the rafters. Yeah. And then I woke up. Nobody was in the house. All the lights were off. And I pulled out my phone and I'm like, let's see how much the Falcons won by. And the Falcons had lost. The Falcons had lost the game. Now, I did not watch live what happened. I didn't see the second half when Tom Brady fucked us up. But what I heard was that I passed out, and then my friends became convinced that we were losing because I was asleep.
Oh, God.
Because I was the pace car. I was leading the charge. So for the rest of the second half of the game, they're just like smacking me in the face.
Trying to get you awake?
Yeah, putting ice on my balls. No, they didn't do that. But that's the story. The Falcons lost the Super Bowl because I have
you
a
passed
problem.
out.
Yeah, because I drank too much. It's my fault.
Plug everything one more time for everybody listening.
Michael Rowland O_O on Instagram. Going to be at the Laughing Skull Lounge in Atlanta, November after Thanksgiving. Other than that, you can see me at Laffadills, my show I run first and third Mondays in Brooklyn.
Okay.
At Sycamore Bar and Flower Shop in Flatbush. We start at 8:30. MichaelRowlandComedy.com or MikeRowland.com.
Love it. Thank you again for coming on, man.
Yeah, this is great. This is so much fun.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. At Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. And then, subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif.
Do the Patreon.
Get
Absolutely.
your merch, man.
And listen to In the Minivan Pod. I forgot about that. Please.
We'll talk to y'all next week.
Thank you. That was great.
That was super fun.